Alright guys, so I was asked to make a video over the Chapter 8 study group problems that I did during 8th period today and after school today. So here it is. So first problem, find the geometric mean between 3 and 12. So in order to find geometric mean, you're going to take the square root of the two numbers. So you're going to multiply the two numbers and take the square root of that. So this is the square root of 3 times 12, and 3 times 12 is 36. So this is the square root of 36, which is 6. Now remember, these are supposed to be in exact numbers, so if this wasn't a perfect square, you would need to break it down and write it as something like 2 radical 2, or something to those extents. Alright, so write a similarity statement for these 3 triangles. So for these, I told you guys to start with one of the triangles, and specifically I usually start with the largest triangle. And it doesn't matter what your largest triangle is, but your other triangles have to match it. So I picked triangle QRS, and that had to be similar to, I'm going to do my medium-sized triangle. So since I did QRS, and QR is my hypotenuse, if I'm looking at a medium-sized triangle, I need to list Q first because it's the angle. QS is my hypotenuse, and then T and S are both right angles, S from this one and T from that one. So this needs to be QST. If I'm looking at my last triangle, I need to list S first because SR will be my hypotenuse. I need to list my right angle last. So this will be angle SRT. And you can read as long as Q and Q and S are in the same spot, and R and S and R are in the same spot, and S and T are in the same spot, it's going to be correct. So on this one, it says find the missing length indicated and write your answer exactly. So for this one's something you guys really struggle with, so I pulled out the theorem that goes with it. And it says that the altitude drawn to the hypotenuse of a right triangle separates the hypotenuse into 2 segments, and the length of the altitude, which is x in this case, is the geometric mean between the lengths of those 2 segments. So in that case, that means that x is going to equal the square root of 64 times 36, or h equals x times y, so that's x equals 64 times 36. 64 times 36 is, if I'm gonna break these down, so that's 2,304, which breaks down as 64 times 36. 64 breaks down as 8 and 8, and 36 breaks down as 6 and 6, so that means that there's a double of 8s and a double of 6s. So I can move the 8 and the 6 to the outside of my square root, so x equals 48 in this case. So on this one, we're looking for a leg, and so again, I pulled out this theorem, and it says that the altitude drawn from the hypotenuse of a right triangle separates the hypotenuse into 2 segments, which are x and y in this case. The lengths of the legs of the triangle is the geometric mean between the length of the hypotenuse and the segment of the hypotenuse adjacent to that leg. So in this case, this would be x times c to find b. So in this case, to find x, it's going to be 36 times 36 plus 100, or plus 64. So b equals the square root of y times c, which is x equals the square root of 36 times 36 plus 64. 36 plus 64 is 100. So x equals 36 times 100, which is 3,600. 3,600 breaks down as 36 and 100. 36 breaks down as 6 and 6. 100 breaks down as 10 and 10. So this is 6 times 10, both outside the square root. So x equals 60. Okay, so on this one, you have to find the missing side indicated, write your answer rounded to the nearest tenth. So this is a Pythagorean theorem problem, and your hypotenuse is 15. So x squared plus 9 squared equals 15 squared. x squared plus 81 equals 225. Subtract 81 from both sides, you get that x squared equals 144. So x equals, or square root both sides, and you get that x equals 12. So on this one, it says determine if the side lengths can be a triangle, and if so, classify the triangle as acute, right, or obtuse. So first you need to decide whether or not it's a triangle. In order for it to be a triangle, 45 plus 60 must be greater than 70, and it is in this case, so this is a triangle. And in order to classify it, we're going to plug it into the Pythagorean theorem. So 45 squared plus 60 squared equals 70 squared. 45 squared is 2,025. 60 squared is 3,600. And 70 squared is 4,900. So we get that 5,625 is greater than 4,900, which means that this is an acute triangle. Because if this side is greater than this side, then it is acute. So for this one, it says to determine if it can be a triangle, and if so, classify it. So on this one, 14 plus 12 has to be greater than 20, and it is. So again, plug it into the Pythagorean theorem. We get 12 squared plus 14 squared equals 20 squared. 144 plus 196 equals 400. So 340 is less than 400 this time, so that means that this is obtuse. And in this last one, we need to make sure that 28 plus 10.2 is greater than 29.8, and it is. So 28 squared plus 10.2 squared equals 29.8 squared. So 784 equals 104.4, or plus 104.4 equals 888.04. 888.04 equals 888.04. So this is a right triangle. So find the missing side lengths and leave your answer in simplest radical form. So this is a 45, 45, 90 triangle. So since this is a 45, 45, 90 triangle, B has to equal 5, radical 2, because these will be the same length. So then our rule is that the hypotenuse equals the leg times the square root of 2. So my hypotenuse, A, equals 5 square roots of 2 times, or 5 square roots of 5 times the square root of 2, which equals 5 times the square root of 10, because you're going to multiply the numbers that are under the radicals. On this one, this is a 45, 45, 90 triangle again, so that means that x is going to equal y. And my rule for the 45, 45, 90s is that the hypotenuse equals the leg times the square root of 2. So my hypotenuse on this case is 3 radical 2, so 3 radical 2 equals x radical 2. I'm going to divide by radical 2 on both sides, and those will end up canceling. The radical 2's will. So we get that x equals 3. So for this one, this is a 30, 60, 90 triangle. And with those, you have a short side, a long leg, and a hypotenuse. So in this case, our hypotenuse equals 2 times the short side, and 2 radical 3 is our short side, so the hypotenuse equals 2 times 2 radical 3. So u equals 4 radical 3. So you're just going to multiply the numbers outside of the radical to get 4. And the leg equals the short leg times the square root of 3. This is our long leg. So v equals 2 radical 3 times radical 3, which is 2 times radical 9. 3 times 3 gives you 9. Square root of 9 is 3, so this is 2 times 3, which is 6. So v equals 6. So on these ones, you're going to find the trig ratio indicated. So if you're finding the sine of x, sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So the side opposite of x is 9, and the side adjacent, or hypotenuse of this triangle is 41. So your fraction is 9 over 41. To find cosine of A, cosine is going to be adjacent over hypotenuse. So this is going to be 20 adjacent, which is 12 over 20. So that's 4/5. So for tangent of C, tangent is opposite over adjacent. So this is going to be 12/16, which simplifies to 3/4. On this, you're going to find the missing side, round to the nearest tenth. So first off, you need to look at what these two sides are compared to what your angle you're given. So you're going to start with your angle measure. X is adjacent and 10 is your hypotenuse. So the cosine of 61, because cosine is adjacent and hypotenuse, equals x, which is, because that's your adjacent side, over your hypotenuse side, which is 10. So then you're going to multiply by 10 on both sides and get 10 cosine of 61 equals x. So x equals 4.8. On this one, looking at 43 degrees, you're going to start by looking at the fact that 18 is hypotenuse and x is opposite. So you're going to use sine. So the sine of 43 equals x over 18. Multiply by 18 on both sides, you get 18 sine of 43 equals x. So 12.3 equals x. So on this one, you're going to look for the missing side again, starting at your 41-degree angle. X is your adjacent side, and 19 is your opposite side. So you're going to use tangent. So tangent tangent of 41 equals 19 over x. So on this one, you're going to multiply by x first, because you're always going to multiply by the bottom number. So you get x times the tangent of 41 equals 19. You're going to divide by the tangent of 41 and get that x equals 19 divided by the tangent of 41. So x equals 21.9. So on this one, you're going to find the missing angle and round to the nearest degree. So again, these are inverse SOHCAHTOA problems. So this is opposite, this is hypotenuse. So you're going to use inverse sine of 23/29, which is 52 degrees. On this one, 39 is hypotenuse and 31 is adjacent. So you're going to use inverse cosine of 31/39, which is 37 degrees. And on this one, 16 is opposite and 38 is adjacent. So you're going to use inverse tangent of 16/38, which is 23. And I'm just plugging these into my calculator. So for this one, you're asked to find the measure indicated and round to the nearest tenth. So you're asked to find angle S. So this, you're given 3 side lengths, you're asked to find an angle measure. So you are going to use the law of cosines. And not only are you going to use the law of cosines, but you're going to end up using inverse cosine. So if I'm looking for this angle measure, I need to start by thinking about the fact that the side opposite that angle measure is what goes with A and the cosine of A. So 12.4 squared equals 10 squared plus 15 squared minus 2 times 10 times 15 cosine of x. So then I get 153.76 equals 100 plus 225 minus 300 cosine of x. I add 100 and 225, I get 153.76 equals 325 minus 300 cosine of x. Now I need to subtract 325 because the 300 is attached to this cosine of x. So I subtract 325 and I get negative 171.24 equals negative 300 cosine of x. Divide by negative 300 and I get negative 0.5708 equals cosine of x. I'm going to find the inverse cosine of that decimal, and I get that x equals 55 degrees. So on this one, they asked you to find the measure indicated and round to the nearest tenth. So if you're asked to find x, you have to find angle B, because B is across from 26. So 180 minus 90 plus 15, or 91 plus 15, will give you what that angle measure needs to be. So 180 minus 106 equals 74. So this is 74 degrees here. So now, law of sine says the sine of A over A being your angle measure here, lowercase a being the side opposite it, equals the sine of B over B. So the sine of 74 over 26 equals the sine of 91 over x. So I cross multiply, I get x sine of 74 equals 26 sine of 91. If I divide by the sine of 74, I get that x equals 26 sine of 91 divided by the sine of 74. So x equals 27.04. And lastly, write the component form of the vector. So component form, you're going to take x2 minus x1, y2 minus y1, where x2, y2 is your coordinate with your arrow. So in this case, you get 4 minus 1. So 4 minus 1 equals 3 minus negative 1, which gives you 3, 4. And that's it. Hopefully you got something from that.